Okay, our program is already recording, and I'm trying to get my felt tip pen going. All right, this is a rather unique case that I happened to see and recognize this while we were doing it several years ago. It's a class 3 case showing self-torquing, and we used a palatal separator in this case, and the only thing that made any sense in it is that the palate was already softened up by separating it, and the tongue apparently torqued the teeth out. Now we'll show this during the case, and it's a rather short case, but I wanted to bring this out. I've never seen that before, and maybe it's something that just happened, but it's a rather unique thing. This young lady has very little class 3 showing. You can see the upper lip is kind of deficient in this area, and you would like to bring that out. The lower lip looks quite good. So anyway, when we look at her from the frontal view, you can still see the deficiency right in this part of the face right here, the base of the nose and everything. And you would like to fill this part of the face out. This looks really quite beautiful. Down here on the bottom it looks great, So anyway, when she smiles, she has a pretty good smile line there. These pictures aren't the best in the world, but then when you come in and look at her models, she's missing a whole bunch of teeth in here now. So the laterals are gone up here, and we're gonna open this space up, put some put a retainer in there we're gonna put false teeth in it and build this out and bring it out. And they use a reverse headgear, and she's missing teeth down here on the bottom too. So we'll get into that a little later on when I show you the x-rays of the case. And it's definitely class 3. I mean, you can see that the molar is quite a ways out in front up here. So it's a class 3 case with a kind of a deficiency in this part of the face. And even after we finished, it's still got some deficiency there, but we got the teeth looking quite nice. And looking at it from the other side, you see the same problem with the case. Now here, looking straight down on the models, we see this baby tooth stayed and this one went, and these teeth moved over to the side. So the midline shift, it should be somewhere in here, and it is definitely shifted over right here. So down on the bottom, I'm sure I can't tell where the midline should go here, but we're missing a bunch of teeth down there also. Now, looking at it cephalometrically, you can see this tooth is angled in quite a bit right up in here, kind of come out, and yet it's still behind the lower anterior teeth right here. So, and this is what this part fills in, and this tooth torques itself up here. It's a rather unusual thing. Now that, after we finished the case and we expanded these teeth and got them over in front of the lower anteriors, it looks like we just pushed them out, and they're laying in there about that angle. And my problem in doing these type of cases is getting enough reverse torque in here to bring these teeth out where the crown stays out here and the root comes forward, and you have to develop a point, and which is pretty hard to do. Now we put, in a lot of cases, we'll put a lip bumper in here and kind of run interference for it and try to bring these teeth out by putting reverse torque in these upper anterior teeth and bring them from here. And when you put this reverse torque in, it tends to bring the crown back, so it defeats your the fact you move the teeth over the lower anterior teeth and then put the reverse torque and keep the root going but the crown not going. And that makes it a pretty difficult thing to do orthodontically. Now this one happened kind of on its own, so that's one of the things I want to bring out on this particular case. Now, after we had got it all separated and I had just had a round wire in there, this tooth went from the position that you see. Let me go back on that picture. Look at where this tooth is here. Now with just a round wire in the teeth, it went to this position, and we kept the teeth in we didn't have a great deal of overbite and overjet, but we got the crown stayed here and the roots came out. Now we may have brought this back some, but we didn't bring it much because we still got a beautiful lower jaw and the lip line and everything looks great. It's a little deficient right in this area. We'd like to bring it out even more to fill that out, but I was very happy to get that much correction in there. So here we look at the case. It's missing both the lower laterals apparently, and I think everything else. This girl had a bad cavity in there, so we had to get those fixed up before we got started with the orthodontics. So this is just the first Panrex here. She was 9 years old, or nearly 10, at 9 and 8 months at this particular time. Now the next x-ray, she's 10 and 11. So we've let nearly a year passes in here. So she's nearly 11 years old at this point. We had to fill a lot of teeth, and make sure those teeth were going to be good before we tried to do this, or maybe they just decided not to do the orthodontics to start off with that early. Okay, we've got only lower cuspid and a lower central. I assume that's a central, and the cuspid right here in the central. And we're missing, I'm going to say the lower laterals. I assume that there are 2 teeth missing down here, and we're pretty certain up here that we're missing a lateral there and a lateral here. And these cuspids are coming in, but they're angled quite a bit. So we got several problems in doing this case. We do have a second molar back in here. You can't see it over here on the right side of the screen. I don't see any wisdom teeth forming in this particular x-ray. Now she's nearly 11 years old here, so here we are in treatment, and she's 11 years and 10 months old at this point. And again, these Panrexes, they just bite together, so you get kind of a double view up here, and I have to cut the center out of them, but it gives me a accurate position of the molars and what they're in, and so they're class 3. No, this is about down to class 1 now here, and this side looks that way too. Now we've banded these teeth, and I just have them in a round wire, and we put some expansion in there, and we've pushed this over. I don't think I've got a panoramic showing the palatal separator, but we will have just a integral picture of it. Now we got her over to this point, and I can't tell how old she is at this. This was 1986, but you can see the lower wisdom, the lower second molar, the first molars, and at this point I don't see any wisdom tooth forming, and at this age you should see an upper wisdom tooth, and she's old enough. This 12-year molar should be down in the mouth here, so I would think this tooth is a kind of a halfway between a wisdom tooth and a 12-year molar, and I've seen that on a lot of kids where they don't have any wisdom tooth. I don't see wisdom teeth on in any of the upper area, and I don't see on this x-ray any on the lower also, but the 12-year molars are in down here. Now we'll go along with it like this. This kind of case you have to do over a long period of time. Now, instead of putting the bridges down here on the bottom, putting them in the anterior part of the mouth, we just move the cuspids forward, and I think we trim them up kind of into laterals, and we'll either put a bridge, or nowadays you'd put implants in there if you could afford them. So anyway, let's go to the actual work of the case. So we've got this archwire in there now, and we've expanded the upper teeth, and we've got these upper teeth now out over the lower teeth that she has. So we've corrected the anterior class 3, though these teeth will be laying out at an angle, a real steep angle, maybe even worse than that, and we're going to have to get them going up and down like that. I don't know whether that'll show up the red against the red out here, but we'll show that a little later on. Now, looking at it from the other side, we've got a lot of space in between the teeth, but we've pushed the upper anterior teeth over the lower anterior teeth, kind of jumped that crossbite that we have. That's just another view of it. And we've widened this out, so she's got a palatal separator in. You can see these teeth are all banded in here, and we'll have the separator on her. When we look at it from this side, we've gone in and expanded this quite a bit. So we move these teeth out. Now, sometimes when we're doing this, we'll bond acrylic blocks on this part to raise the bite enough so we could jump these teeth over the lower anterior teeth, and working right off of the palatal separator, we put some expansion in here and push these teeth over. So that might help you in trying to treat a case like this. Now we've opened the palate quite a bit in here, and when you do, you kind of soften the palatal sutures. It's trying to grow back together again. The bone structure is a little softer in there. That's the only thing I can see that might have allowed this to happen. So during this time, we're using a Hickam chin cup that has a little strap across the teeth that comes down behind the ear, and I've got it touching the tissue there, but you can bend these where they don't actually touch anything, and you can come back and hook this to your palatal separator and start moving everything forward. As it pulls back on this, it kind of pivots off your chin down here, and it'll put pressure on this strap across the hair up here. a lot of times a young lady like that, well, she would take her hair and pull it forward and put this strap and then lay the hair back over, and you wouldn't even see this strap, and you don't see this very much. And if you're skillful in bending this wire, you can kind of lay it around. When it's under pressure, it's not pushing against the tissue at all. It's a real good device. It actually moves the maxilla forward, but it pushes back on the chin, so it has a little detrimental effect on the condyles back here. So if you've got somebody with a TMJ problem, it'd be hard to use any of these reverse headgears like that. But anyway, it's a nice instrument to learn how to use, and it puts reverse pressure, bringing these teeth forward out here, and something worked real good on this case. Now, we didn't get the torque out there with that, and looking at it from the front, you try to bend these little hooks so that the elastic is going to go through the lip line here where the lip's in a normal position. You want the lip, you don't want to have it pushing the lip up or pushing it down, but have the elastic go through where the lip normally rests. And when she smiles, you can see we've got this palatal separator, and this thing is hooked to the palatal separator, this Hickam chin cup. Now this is the lower arch, and we've got deciduous teeth banded in here. We use them frequently. Coming on around banding the rest of the stuff, we'll pull that back and have some bridge work on the bottom done. Now at this point, we've got the teeth over the line quite good, and we've expanded the palate, and we've expanded the upper arch where it's over the lower arch in this forward position. And here we're more or less just waiting on this to happen. Now, when I didn't really notice this at first when I was doing the case, and I was taking these pictures, and I got to looking at the pictures, and look at this. These teeth are just laying down in here. They're just, they really got way too much torque, and so it's obvious looking here after we took the palatal separator out. We got room for them, and this tissue's all that I can say is it must have been pretty soft in here, and we got her breathing and functioning right, and the tongue pressure must have done this. Still, the lady, this young girl, has a slight deficiency in this part of the facial structure to me. You can just look at it, see the lower jaw looks perfectly nice and fine at this point. Now, looking straight forward at the face, again you pick up this deficiency right in the maxilla, right here, just slightly. You might, if you had this problem, could inject the lips or make them fuller up on front. It might fill that out better. Excuse me. It might fill that upper lip out better. But you can recognize that deficiency in class 3 cases. When she smiles, you can pick that up even more so, and we've expanded this out now. So now the permanent cuspids are coming in, and we've got a little flexible wire up here, but this is just a round wire that we're expanding. We're going to move the cuspid back and make plenty of room in here for laterals, and we'll put some laterals on the case. Down on the bottom, we move the cuspids forward. We'll shape them up like laterals and plan to fill that in down on the bottom between the cuspid and bicuspid to make a better bridge, was my thinking in that. So here we've taken some plastic teeth and put brackets on them and tied them in, and you'll have a little torque on them, and the teeth will just kind of embed in the tissue. Now this one's off here. You can smooth it up if you want to, and the teeth look like they're natural with the butt of this plastic tooth kind of torqued into the tissue right there. The tissue kind of grows around the thing, and they look quite natural sometimes. The color, of course, is different in this. Now, here this is illustrating the extreme torque that's in these teeth. When we moved them forward, the crowns went out, but the roots stayed back, and they're just in there at quite an angle. It'd be kind of like that with the lower anterior teeth coming up in here, and you want them kind of this way. So now this next slide shows the teeth, and I've still got them in a round wire. We're still doing the same thing. I had taken the palatal separator out, and I had no mechanical device in here to push these teeth or torque them out like that. And this happened. And I've never seen this before. Now I'm going to go back and look at where the teeth were at this point. There's a round wire in there, and this was earlier, you see. We got the cuspids coming in, and there was several months past in here where we've hooked another round wire, and we're putting a spring on it. So this is the time. There's a good bit of time transferred here, but it's after the palatal separator was removed, and now this palate is soft. Now this young lady starts functioning correctly, and all I can come up with is that the tongue in a normal pressure forces these teeth out. Now, why does anybody have their teeth torqued out properly? And the tongue has to be the main thing in putting pressure on the inside here. As you swallow and push forward, and as these teeth form, they form with a certain amount of torque in them right here. It's not the lip structure, it's not the body. And if you took the tongue away, I don't think the teeth would torque themselves out at all. I don't think they would come out there if they didn't have the torque and the pressure from the inside. And then you've got to have this pressure from the lip side out here, holding the crowns back, and it pushes up in here. And that's the only explanation I can come up with as to why and how this happened. But if we understood it, maybe we could get this pressure situation and have some influence on doing this on people where they have the class 3 and missing teeth like that. So I think the softening of the palate up with the palatal separator going through here, and the suture certainly is growing back in here, and these teeth are not in real hard bone, and now we get her functioning right, and this takes place. And to me, that's an unusual thing, and I saw this happen, and I've only seen it once that I could really document it like this. So here are the two pictures, and this is where I think the tongue went in here and torqued these teeth. Now there's several months difference between here and over here, you see. So the tongue had time to press on this, and I got the girl breathing right, tongue doing the pressure right and everything. And so getting function is necessary to develop the mouth like that. And this is after this is, before we had the torque, and then here, and we never had any rectangular wire, anything in here. You can look at this round wire there, and there's a round wire over on this other side. And that torque, to me, that's an amazing thing. And we get this pressure situation, we might have influence on how to develop this. One of the things is just get every kid, functioning correctly as soon as you possibly can. And that's what actually does the torquing on anybody. Now, she may have had a genetic bent toward class 3. Most everybody does. I think of every case of class 3 that I've ever had anything to do with, I could find somebody in the family that was class 3. They had some genetic deficiency, but correcting it, then we have to get things as normal as we can, and that helps in the correction. Okay, here's a self again. I'm going to show this way this tooth is lying out here, and it was back here now, and now we've got to get it up like that. And then look at this self now. The next self looks beautiful, and these teeth are torqued and the crown is out there, and this one is sitting straight up in here, and the inner and sidle angle is just really neat. Now, how this goes from that to that with a round wire in there, you tell me. So I contribute this to correcting the function and the tongue coming up in here and pressing on this every time they swallow and eat, and it must have been the thing that did the torquing in this situation. So I put the little false teeth in here. We didn't put any in the bottom. We put a retainer on there with a little saddle thing here holding this space open, and we'll put these teeth onto the retainer itself when we finish the case. So we got it looking pretty good and in a pretty good class 1 relation in here. And looking at it from the top now with these teeth, and these teeth are torqued by themselves. This rectangular wire just forces that or keeps it out there, so we have a rectangular wire on there holding that torque. As we finish the young lady up, we've still got this deficiency right in here. I never could bring that out. I wish I understood enough to be able to actually fill it out where this lip would be further out here. Something like that. But she's a beautiful girl, and I'm sure that as pretty as she is, that her husband didn't look at this upper lip and say, well, your lip's too thin. I guess you could have the lip enhanced a little with plastic surgery or something and fill it out. And the smile is great. And we finish the case like this is 1987. And showing the cuspids down here, we brought them up. We'll shape them up a little better to look more like laterals, and then you can put a bridge, or you could put implants in the bottom area down there to fill that out. And here's 1988. It's not such a hot picture there either. Now when we come out of here, we'll put a lower retainer with a saddle in these areas so they can fill that in. Now here's the finish of it, and she's still got that deficiency right at the base of the nose. But a very beautiful young lady, but just this upper lip needs a little fullness, and that's all, and making her really pretty. Now when she smiles, you don't pick that deficiency up as easy. She's got a good smile line, good lip line there. Now we had upper wraparound retainers, and we took these false teeth and put them on this. You can be assured that kids will wear these retainers. Boy, you break one of these teeth off, they'll come sit in your office till you get it put back on. They won't leave. You have to stick it on. Now on the bottom we put these little, I've got, looks like a little tooth in there. It may just be some acrylic to hold that space while we're waiting for bridge work or something like that as she gets older. So we have upper and lower wraparound retainers, and I can guarantee you they wear them. Boy, if you break a tooth off of there, she's in your office. And so try to put those teeth on. We run wires out of the palate part. We'll have a double wire come into that tooth and fill that in and try to keep it from breaking off as much as we can. And they're not to bite anything hard on that particular tooth. And you want to wait till they're pretty well mature before you come in there and try to bridge that in. You might put a Maryland bridge or something of that nature. Okay, here we have a bite plate on the retainer, and here are the false teeth on this. And that's the way this looks without the retainer in there. And this 1989. Down on the bottom we put teeth down here. I forgot to, we just bonded some teeth on that, and it's a wraparound retainer, and they fill up this gap here. Is bigger than this one over here, but apparently that's what worked its way into the cuspal interdigitation of the teeth. Now these teeth had some bad cavities, but we filled those and made sure they were okay before we finished. Let me go back here. I need to erase that writing there. So here's the young lady that we started off several years back with this deficiency. She still shows that deficiency, but a very attractive young lady. And that felt like the best I could do in this particular case. And here it is, looking at the models and getting it aligned up and everything. And it worked out quite well. And that's the end of our deal. So